Hi, I'm Alexa. Saturday, let's get into some thoughts. Was I wrong? A couple of videos ago, I did a video on love languages or the languages of appreciation. And then this week, I realized there were seemingly, I think it was mostly near the beginning of this year, although didn't really find anything older than that, but I'm sure there's obviously challenges to this languages previously. I read something and saw some videos this week that say the love languages have not been proven. They're pseudoscience, and that experiments testing, they've not been able to prove that they are actually valid. And I started to think about that because I had not seen or heard that before. And I find it important to evaluate what I believe based on the facts that I have at the time that I am evaluating my beliefs. Now, there's a few different things that we as humans have. Values are inherent. They are your absolute basic guiding principles, and they likely are not going to change. However, they don't normally need to change based on a lot of external information. It's how you perceive the world. Things like a value might be justice or honesty or communication, or there's a bunch of them. Anyway, your value, family might be a value, that family is important. They are likely not to change because of external information. Now, beliefs are not as normally intrinsic as your values. And please forgive me if I misspeak on this. I'm trying to explain it the best way that I can. Beliefs are things that, with the information you have, you think it. Okay, you believe it to be a certain thing. It doesn't have to be proven. You don't have to know 100% for sure. You just believe it, right? And a lot of the things that we think will fall under a belief. And this can range from small to large. Like, you might believe that one restaurant in town has the best burger, but you haven't tried all of them yet. So there might actually be another place in town that has a better one. You might believe someone is good for a job, and then you start working with them and you realize they're not, or their strength lies in a different area and not in the area that you thought was their strength. You might believe that you're the right person for a job and then realize that the job is not doing the stuff you thought it was. I've seen many people get upset that they didn't get a job because they thought they had everything. Based on the job listing, they had every skill required and the person hired didn't. And then over time, they realized that as that person is doing that job, it wasn't written the way it was meant to. Like, it wasn't written exactly how it should have been, and it wasn't what you thought it would be. And so the other person did have more of the skills needed. That has happened to me. I've been in that situation. I've had to try and write job descriptions, and it's very tricky to write what is factually going to have to be done as part of the job and capture the parts that are more soft skills or forward thinking, maybe. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I'm not quite sure of the words I want to use there, but the things that are not just black and white, you will process this function that we need done. You will take care of these orders. You will do this. Very transactional XYZ, what you're going to be doing, versus what the job entails once you're in that environment and you're working with the people on your team. So beliefs across your life, everything that you think, or not everything, values are values. When something new comes up, you should take a moment and read it and openly evaluate whether this is now a fact that should change your belief, or if it is not a fact, but a new way of thinking. So what I have found, and I will share one article in the notes as always, I do not believe that at this time love languages should be thrown out the window. I think that they can still be a very, very valuable tool. One of the things that I took issue with the people on the other side, that argument, is that they have not disproven love languages. It simply has not been proven in our normal scientific terms. And there's also a thing that is missing from their consideration, or at least in how the articles I read presented. They may have gone on to say similar to what I'm about to say. For people who take something like a love language, or a similar conversation I had recently was about leadership styles. So situational leadership is one that I use often, but I don't stick to it exactly. And love languages should not be taken as you absolutely must do exactly what is said in this book. And I have noticed there are people who take any type of self-help book, which, listen, leadership theories, that's a self-help book. Love languages, self-help book. There's all these things out there that are sort of presented as you must do this. And I take great issue with that. If you read something and it gets you to think a little bit differently, how is that bad? If it gets you to evaluate and grow and learn and evolve, is that not what we as people should be doing? Should we not be able to accept conflicting data? And in some instances, especially when it doesn't impact other people and it's not infringing on their rights, if it's something like believing a best burger in town is this one, but you haven't been to a few other places, if you decide to go to a few more places, you can now take that information and decide whether you like it more or not, right? Like, you can now evolve to say, oh, I used to think this one was, now I prefer that one. Or, this one was really good, but I'm going to stick with my original one. You can make those decisions. And a well-informed decision it's a thing of beauty to know all of the sides and to evaluate them and to know in a grander scale, there are deal breakers. And these would be things that conflict your values when someone else is doing something that you're just absolutely no, that's not acceptable. And that's more in relationships than in, for example, deciding about a burger. This self-evaluation and this self-reflection is something that I have tried to be open with and try to model with people around me. I feel it's very important that we do keep an open mind. There's been a lot of rhetoric over the past, it's going on, it's around forever, but it's been building a lot over the past probably 8 to 12, possibly 20 years in the public political spectrum. And it's dichotomous. It's you have to be A or B. This is not true. So within situational leadership, it essentially has a matrix of competency versus engagement. And you're either high competence, low competence, and then high engagement, low engagement. And so it creates 4 boxes for 4 ways you can join these 2, competency and engagement, together. Even that, having 4 levels, to me seems restrictive. I think it's an extremely valuable tool for me as a leader, as a manager, to know where my team is on the scale. But I also understand that there are other things that can impact a person's performance. They might really love their job. They might be very good at what they're doing, and they might be sick, or they might have an emergency. going on in their family, right? That's taking their time away, and it's not taken into account within this matrix in situational leadership. Does that mean we should get rid of situational leadership altogether? Absolutely not. It is a fantastic, fantastic tool to open communication. And with love languages, I think that it is also an incredibly valuable tool to start a conversation if you do not have tools to start that conversation already. And this is where I felt there was a lack of acknowledgement in the articles I read, in the things I listened to, for the people saying this is junk science and we shouldn't, people need to not listen to it. If you do not have another way to start your conversation yet, and communication being the number one most important skill you can have as a person, we communicate with each other all the time. Everything we do with other people is a form of communication. It is. You literally cannot interact with other people without communicating with them. There's no possible way. Even if you just walk past a person, you are communicating something non-verbally. Communication is such an important part of our lives, and successful communication, where the message you intend is the one that is successfully received, is not a skill that we teach or learn in our schools, and it really should be. So to me, I think it's very valuable to have some ways of exploring what you're doing and how you're communicating. And even the most successful communicators understand that you might be really good at communicating, but there's still people who do not receive your message as you intended. And looking at these new things, if you've never read The Love Languages, you could go read it, and it might give you some new insights into a relationship you're having, where you can now come at that a little bit differently, understanding the person that you're communicating with a little better, understanding their point of view, and really just thinking about them a little more. And if that's done on both sides, that is where true connection and understanding and comprehension of each other becomes possible. And I'm hoping that if you're listening to this, you have had at least one person in your life who has truly understood you, and you know how powerful and impactful that can be to you and how that makes you feel. So yes, I did not know that they have been studying and have basically said, from one side, no test has proven the love languages. They also said it hasn't disproven them. So if you are going to look at these more as a tool versus a be-all, end-all, I think it's very valuable. I'll link the video at the end so you can jump over to it and really leave me your thoughts on this. I do want to end just very quickly by saying changing our minds is okay based on information. There are choices, there are things that I have done in the past that I did the absolute best I could based on the information that I had at the time. And today I know more, and I'm sad that I did not have that information and that my choice at the time based on my new information is not one I would make. But that growth as a human being is something we all do and we all go through. And that is a beautiful thing to watch. It's a beautiful thing to strive for as a person. And it's a beautiful thing to encourage in other people. I get very, very frustrated with A or B, dichotomous. You must, if you're not this, you must be the other. Well, no, there's a whole range of, everything is more like a spectrum of a continuous line where people could be, think of a volume bar, right? You're not off or on, right? There's a whole range of volumes in between minimum and maximum. And I believe that there is essentially everything that we have in life. People will be somewhere along whatever topic you want to choose and pick. Like, if people prefer French fries or onion rings, I bet there's people in the middle who like them both equally, right? Small to large. this whole dichotomous in the US two-party political system, that gets me really annoyed, because we really don't just have two parties. We have people who have some views that are on the left and some views that are more right aligned, and every person has a different mix depending on the topic. I mean, you can talk about national defense, you can talk about spending, you can talk about taxes, you can talk about immigration, you can talk about education, you can talk about environmental protection, every single issue. Not everyone is all here or all here. On each of those issues, you're going to have a sort of matrix of where people fall. I know I do. I know I have some beliefs that fall on both sides. It's okay. That's what makes us human. And those are the things that we often, if we are open and willing to, can compromise on, because they are not our values. They are beliefs. And beliefs are driven by information that we are given and learn. Communication, I hope I have stressed the importance of this and that you agree. I hope that this has given you a little bit of food for thought. I hope that my own thought process in reading and acknowledging and incorporating this new information about love languages and the scientific experiments that have been done, research into it, has given you a little bit of insight into modeling how you yourself could accept new information and think it through. And you don't have to take new information and completely, well, that's gone. I can't think that anymore. I've got this new stuff. Sometimes you might realize you were completely wrong. That happens to all of us at some point or other in our life. We find something, and it can be difficult, especially if you hold it. It's one of your more strongly held beliefs. It can be difficult to hear something that conflicts with it, and it feels like it's attacking you. But if you remember that a belief is not actually who you are, it's information that you have had and thought was true. And it's natural for us to do the best we can with the information we have at the time. That new information is, I find information and learning exciting. And it's not, oh, I was a failure because I did the wrong thing because I didn't know any better. It's like, well, ain't that a kick in the pants? Okay, well, now I know better. I'm going to do better. I think having this open mind to learning and to continuously evolving our communication skills is the best way for all of us as people to move forwards. This feels like it's a little bit preachy. I thank you if you made it to the very end here with me. As always, drop a like, subscribe, leave me a comment, let me know your thoughts on this. I will leave one of the articles down below. And if something comes up for you that conflicts one of your deeply held beliefs, give yourself a little grace. Be kind to yourself. Understand that it's okay, right? You do the best you can until you know better, and then you do better. I know that's very hard, easy to say, hard to do. I'm working on it myself. All of us are. Anyway, thank you for being here. Be kind to yourself.